Hello and welcome back to another video. We're going to time the engine up in this video, hopefully. This is the state of the thing at the minute. We have put the bottom gear on, which I still need to put the keyway in. Basically, we've done nothing. And the top gear is coming off anyway because it's got a vernier gear coming, which has a little bit more adjustment. We are going to make ourselves a little plates to go on here so we can find our true top dead center. I'm going to go through the process of what I'm doing basically to do that as well. This is the idea. Basically, very gently, I've put this on top of the engine and I've used a hammer to score the, obviously not the block, but the cardboard. There's oil on the block as well, which also helps. And we've gone through the cardboard and every hole, so we know where the holes are for this plate that I'm making. We also know where the piston cylinder wall sits, so I can get it dead in the middle. I can measure, get it dead in the middle, and then I can drill a hole in the middle of the plate, tap it out, and then we can have a little piston stop. That's my plan anyway, so I'm going to crack on with that. I think I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm going to scribe that onto here, and then get the angle grinder out and the drill and all that boring stuff. I'm not sure you need to see, so hopefully when I next show the clip, you'll have a plate in front of us. I would clip my fingers, but I can't clip my fingers, so I won't do that. So yeah, next clip. Okay, so this is what you saw me start with. This is our bit of CAD, cardboard aided design, and this is what we have now. This is our tool. It's going to allow us to find a true top dead center. I'll explain in a little while how we use this bolt to do that. And we've also got a little pin here that goes into our buckets, so when we turn our camshaft we can also find our top there. We're going to be using a dial gauge indicator on this to find our position of the camshaft. I've put a little center punch in the top here so it sits nicely and doesn't fall out. Yeah, very happy with it. It's been about a week since I've started doing this because I've been busy doing other things, but we're back. Now we're going to work on getting our dial gauge indicator onto our crankshaft. I have to drill out, basically this is the dial gauge indicator I got from Newman Cams. You can print these off, but I thought while I was there ordering a camshaft might as well. That don't go on there at the minute. We're going to make it go on. I'm going to drill a big hole in the middle of it, and then I'm going to make a clamp out of an old number plate, I think, to get it on there. So yeah, let's crack on. Oh, and our adjustable gear turned up as well, so I've just quickly plopped that on because I couldn't help myself. It looks really cool. I have checked the alignment of the two sprockets again, and thankfully this is obviously built to a factory specification, so that everything is still straight and true, which is awesome. One thing I did forget to mention earlier when we were lining these up is these little washers in the back here. When you have brand new ones, I don't know if you can see, but it has like a shape to it as it goes over the into the crankshaft here. If they're brand new, they come straight, so this will need button up against here and then pushing really hard in there. So you're probably better off putting the a tool on there to make sure you get it pushed up nice and tight, or just take the shim out, put that on, measure how far out you are, and then order the correct shims. And then once you know that you have the correct shims and you've got it all bolted up, it should be fine. Obviously worth checking it afterwards as well. But we're okay, we're within spec, which is awesome. I'm going to go ahead and make that dial gauge indicator bit there that I needed. Okay, so my first step was to drill a hole that matches, or is slightly bigger than my crankshaft, and this is how I did it. I just stuck this to a bit of aluminium and then I used a hole saw. I put the hole in the bit of alley first, and then I stuck this over the hole, because obviously drilling through this on its own is going to be an absolute nightmare. You need something solid to go through. It's a shame to waste a little bit of alley, but it's the only process I could come up with that would come out of a good result, and that's exactly what we've done. Now we've got to mount it to our crankshaft, and obviously just throwing it on there like this ain't going to do a lot, so we need to mount it so that it's also adjustable. It needs to be clampable, and my plan here is to use I'm going to use an old bit of number plate because it's thinner than this stuff I've got here. I'm planning on wrapping it around and then putting slits in it, bending the slits out, and then bolting the slits to this plate, and then that way we'll be able to clamp it. Obviously there'll be a slit throughout the entire thing. I'll show you what I'm planning. If it don't work, then you're going to see me waste some time. Alright, I'm going to have to call it there for tonight. This is what we've got so far. I've got my little ring. I've got a gap in the middle so that when I tighten it, it's going to clamp onto the crankshaft. I've got centre punched a couple holes. Got 3 holes that I'm going to drill and bolt it to this wheel, and then we can adjust our timing disc if required whenever we want. We just got to slacken that off, turn it, and then turn it and set it up. So yeah, really happy with how that's turning out. I'm gonna finish it up. Okay, so this is what we are left with by the time I've finished messing around with this. We've got our little dial gauge at the bottom here, which you can see, and we've got a little pin which indicates the position of the dial gauge. So what we need to do now is find a true top dead center. So we're going to begin timing the engine up now. So here we are, and this is our setup. It's pretty simple if you think about it. Someone who doesn't know what is going on might get a little confused, but it is all really very straightforward and quite simple. We've also got the plate that we've made. We've also got our dial gauge on the front, and we've got a little pointer here. This will tell us where exactly our engine is degree wise. Currently the setup that we've got, this is irrelevant. We are going to take note of the degrees that we see on there, but it's irrelevant to the engine timing itself. So what we have got is our piston stop in the top here. This is set so that just before we hit top dead center, that will touch the piston and stop the engine from turning. So I'm just going to rotate the engine. As you can see, the piston come up, just touching that piston stop just before we get to top dead center. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to take a reading. So I've got it set so that it's pretty bang on the marks. So we're going to say 30 degrees for this one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the complete opposite. Turn the engine over. Wait for the pistons to come up. Nice and slow. You don't want to damage that piston. And we've stopped again. Perfect. And we are now at, I would say, 5 degrees. So we need to find the middle of those 2 measurements, and then we will have our top dead center. Okay, so after doing the calculation that is required, it still blows my mind a little bit, but we've managed to get there. We've landed at 12.5 degrees, which I see there. So you've got 10, and it's just top 12.5 degrees before top dead center. But obviously we're not actually before top dead center, we are at top dead center. Now what you need to do is we need to loosen off this and clock this until the gauge says 0 on our little pin here, and then we know that this is at top dead center, and then we can begin cam timing. Okay, so this is the setup that I've used to time the engine up. I don't quite understand the calculations behind it, but we have figured it out and got there. So I'm not going to go into massive explanation on how I've done this, but I will show you the setup. It's a pretty simple setup. Again, we're finding my measurements, my camshaft. It's quite simple, to be honest. We come over to the dial gauge. Always turn the engine forwards, not backwards. I'm going to go backwards just for demonstrate. Actually, no, I do need to go forwards, to be fair. Let's go forwards. We need to go to 0. You see, if you can see the pistons in the background, when we get to 0, it's going to stop. But the pistons actually, I'm still turning the crankshaft. So we've got that little low bit at the top. That's why we need to find our exact top of the camshaft. And obviously if we turn in a clockwise direction, we go down to 50. So about there. I would go a little bit more. I was just being a little bit anal earlier, so I made sure it was dead on. And then you take your measurements, and we're at 140. No, sorry, yeah, 141 here. And then if we was to go back and go do the other side, which of course you always come from a forwards direction, so you can see how I've gone too far. And now we're going to come back at it from the opposite direction, about there. And then we take our next reading, which I figured at 82 degrees. And then we did the calculation to figure out what should be where. And I found out that I've managed to somehow get it absolutely spot on the first try. So camshaft and crankshaft are aligned. Yeah, don't really know how I done that. After a couple of evenings and a little bit of thought, I've realised that it was complete pot luck that has allowed me to get my timing done. So yeah, I'm not going to adjust anything. It's all buttoned up. We've now got to stick these little bits on. We have a little collar and a oil flickery shim. I'll explain what the flickery shim does. Okay, so I think the idea of this shim is basically to flick oil away from your seal at the front here. This collar goes on the top here. I will get it on in a minute, but it goes on the front there, and obviously the possibility of oil seeping from between the crankshaft and this little bit here is possible. It's unlikely, and it's not normally necessary to put anything on there, but just for a little bit of reassurance, I will be putting a little bit of well seal on the inside of this gap on the inside of the surface here. Yeah, the idea of this little bit here is that it flicks oil. Basically, oil goes on here and it flicks it about and keeps it away from the seal, and also covers everything that needs to be oiled in oil. So yeah, I'm going to put them on now. I'm pretty sure there isn't a specific orientation of this little thing. Well, there might be actually. Let me do a little bit of research and make sure I get it the right way. I'd imagine the chamfered end goes at the front, but we will double check that. Cool. Okay, so I did a little bit of research, and there's two little chamfer bits. So you've got a small chamfer on this end and the large chamfer on this end. Actually, the large flat chamfered end goes towards the sprocket, and the slightly less chamfered end goes towards the end of the engine, so the front. So it goes on like that. So I'm going to plonk that on there now. So to get started on putting our plate on, we're going to use a little bit of well seal. I didn't want to use gasket sealer like I did with the other parts. I might put this on directly onto the gasket first actually. Nice thin coating of this stuff all around the gasket. So let me do that. And say, okay there. So as you can see, I've got a nice thin layer of well seal on there. Might be a little bit thick in places, but it's not too bad. So we're just going to stick this on here. And the well seal is very sticky stuff. So this will stick, once it's applied properly, it will stick and stay in position nicely. Hopefully. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. It is what it is. So once you got that on, we're going to go ahead with the next bit. Okay, so we've got a nice thin layer of well seal on the inside of this as well. Decided not to go on the gasket as it was a bit of a faff with it not sticking in place completely. So this is quite a fiddly job. You've got to try and hold this spring back. As you can imagine, it's trying to push against that chain, and if you don't hold the spring back, the cover ain't going on. So what I'm going to try and do now is fit that, and I'm going to do it as a time lapse because it might take me a little while. So let's see. Okay, so just like that, the timing cover is on. We're going to put all of the bolts in this timing cover now, and we are going to loosely fit it. So we're not going to nip these bolts up. They're just going to be all in and loosely in, because there is a little trick to stop these engines from leaking tons of oil out this front seal, which I will show you. Okay, so the trick with these is fitting your crankshaft pulley. Basically, fitting this allows this to all square up nicely. That is all it is. So I'm just going to plonk this on, and then once it's on and we've got it tightened up, we're then going to tighten all of our bolts up, and that will help centralise it. Okay, so we've got our pulley on. While I was there, I decided that I was going to make me marks nice and easy to see. As you can see, I literally got a paint pen, covered the whole lot in paint pen, and then just rubbed it with a bit of rag. So when I timing light is flashing, I'll be able to see. And I've also coloured in the A and the B, just so I know before, after top dead centre and before top dead centre. So it's nice and easy to time up in the future. One thing I have noticed though is my engine came originally with, I believe they're called a viscous fan. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a fan basically that I think cuts in when it gets to a certain temperature or something. I'm not sure how they work, but I'm not using it. I've got an electric fan on my car and I'm definitely not using it. The pulleys, I believe, must be different between viscous fan ones and not, as this one obviously has holes in it. I believe my other one does not, and that is for the pins on the fan here. So what the plan I've got to do now is I'm going to measure the size of my crankshaft and basically order a washer to space this out, so that I can then get another washer to go around the top that goes across here and on this washer here to hold it all together. Which is a little bit of a ball ache that I didn't really want to have to deal with, but the other crankshaft pulley's on the car, which is outside, which I can't get the bonnet off on my own, so we're going to make this pulley work. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll nip all these up because this is all bashed on. Doesn't need to be tight, it is all bashed on nice now, so I can tighten all of these bolts up and we can call that done. But I'm just going to have to wait for that washer to turn up. And then we're going to fit our distributor drive, I think will be the next thing. Okay, so after a little bit of hunting online, I've managed to find myself a new bolt. It's an M16 by 2mm thread pitch bolt if you are in this situation, and the length of thread that you need is 32mm, so I went for a 30mm bolt. About 24mm is enough, but I want to get as much in there as I can, and after a little bit of measuring I figured out that is the sort of size bolt that I need. We're obviously going to be coming out a little bit because we're going to have a washer on the end here just to space it out so that we can clamp onto this pulley so that we can use it, which is perfect. So I'm just going to nip all of these bolts up and we can call that done. Obviously we've got to wait for the bits to turn up before we can put the crankshaft pulley in, bolt on properly, but that's absolutely fine. We're going to crack on with distributor drive gear now. Okay, so I got a little bit carried away and I have fitted the drive gear, as you can see there. That's my original mark, that's completely irrelevant now. I'm going to show you how I did this. There is a procedure to doing this well and making it easy for yourself. The best way to do it is to set the engine so it's about 10 degrees before top dead center. So obviously we've got a crankshaft pulley on there and we can have a look to see where it is, and we've got roughly about 10 degrees before top dead center. And then you can drop your drive wheel in. You need to be on the compression stroke of the engine. The best way to tell whether it's on the compression stroke is looking at these two bits, or the buckets here. They basically want to be fully seated down as far as they go, so that the camshaft is not pushing up on them. So now that you are confident that you are on your compression stroke and you've got it roughly 10 degrees before top dead center, you fit your drive wheel at roughly that sort of angle. The reason that we do it like this is that when we drop the distributor in, the distributor arm can be pointing roughly in the cylinder 1 direction. Like physically looking over in that direction, the rotor, and that means that the engine should in theory fire and start on our first try, and then from there we can fine-tune our ignition timing. So hopefully we've done this all right, and if it doesn't work, don't listen to a word I said. That's how I've tried to do it. What we're going to do next, I actually don't know. I think I'm going to go into the garage and I'm going to paint a thing, the distributor bit that goes on the top here, the little mount, and then I'll come out here another night, clean the engine block up again, and possibly get that painted as well. Then we can consider doing things like sticking the cylinder head on, I suppose. We've got other bits that we can do, but yeah, we're getting there now. Obviously we've got no sump pump, we need to put our oil pump in as well, so we're going to have to turn it upside down and put the oil pump in. Okay, so I think we're going to leave that episode there. I'm cracking on with it again tonight, and I'm going to get the cylinder head on, so that'll be the first thing you see in the next episode. Yeah, we're getting on really well, and hopefully we'll be done this side of the winter, maybe. Summer's coming, so hopefully it'll be done soon. Cool, see you in the next one.